Welcome back to the channel. Quick update on the Scirocco. Got the bonnet fitted now. This one came off a scrapped GTX, so not in the best condition, but just working with what I've got. Got the bonnet pins in, modified the hinges as well so it clears the cage. Here's the hinges. Modified them so that as they come down, they don't come down onto the cage. And obviously I had to cut a bit out the bonnet so it clears these extended strut tops. The engine and all the wiring and all that stuff's back in. Got some extra sensors now as well. I've also converted to the 4-pin coils, so there's no ICM module now. Made a temporary brace to hold the engine from the front, because I do plan to make a new cross member in the next couple of weeks. So this will just hold the engine in place while I'm doing that. Fuel lines are in to the fuel rail. Got a fuel pressure sensor here as well. 3-bar map sensor is now mounted up to the inlet manifold. And yeah, the loom is just kind of temporarily taped up just to secure its position. Got the 2 slimline fans wired up as well. Got the fluid pots mounted just through the kind of bulkhead bit. This is front brakes, rear, and then clutch at the back. I'm hoping the wiper arms will clear that, but I haven't actually tested it yet because the wipers are not working. I think the motor's maybe seized. Got the coolant bottle mounted in off the cage. Strut brace going across. This is a Mk2 Scirocco strut brace. I just modified the brackets to mount it to my strut tops. Inside the car, fuse box and all the looms mounted up. Made an earth point on the cage here, welded a stud on. Been working on a heater for the car. At first I was just going to try get a heated windscreen, but it seems pretty impossible for these cars. So I've bought a little compact 12-volt heater. It does have a heater matrix, so I've got a feed of coolant going into it. And yeah, basically all this stuff is custom, so these controls along the bottom of the switch panel can turn the heat up and down here. This one will open and close the demist vent, and then that turns the fan on to different speeds. So yeah, the switch panel bolts up to the dash in here. Obviously the dash is out at the moment. So the heater actually bolts up to this hatch that I've made. The reason I've made a hatch is so it's easier to access the back of the cylinder head. Done a little bit of work on the dashboard as well. So mainly kind of fiberglass, repaired a few bits that were broken. Fiberglass these ends, that's basically to stop the hot air leaking out. And I've kind of half made up this little system here. So these 2 will take feeds from my heater, and then the other 2 off the heater can go down to driver or passengers' feet, whatever they want. This flap will be operated by the push-pull cord on the switch panel. And the idea is it will come out of those 2 feeds and it will just use all the original demisting vents. It doesn't need to be powerful, it just needs to be enough to demist the window if I need to. Obviously just running the original switches. Air-fuel ratio here, that's a fuel gauge. Fan override switch, and this will be for the fuel pumps. And then obviously I've got the main battery kill switch. And this is an FIA one, so it basically prevents the alternator from keeping the engine running once you've killed it. Obviously I've got the Emerald K6. This will mount somewhere in the glove box, kind of up in here, for easy access to the comms ports for mapping and data logging and stuff. Got the handbrake all hooked up. Obviously gear stick, hydro's now mounted as well. Made up a spreader plate to mount the hydro on, just to stop the tunnel flexing. Pedal box is mounted up, just where it was before. Throttle cable's hooked up now as well. It's quite hard to see, but basically modified the pedal to take a Mark 1 Golf style grommet at the bottom. And then this is a Mark 2 Golf carbed throttle cable. Got the lines in for the fluid pots. Treated myself to a stack ST8100 digital dash. I made up this little alloy plate for the digi dash that slots quite nicely into the the Scirocco's dash. I'll put a picture up now. Steering wheel, this is just a temporary one I've got sitting about, but I'm gonna get a quick release boss so it's easier to get in and out of the car. Exhaust is now finished as well and fully mounted up. So it's 3" all the way from the turbo into a side exit here. I'll put the car up in the air in a sec, we can have a look at it. Fitted up bumper, tailgate, lights and stuff just to make it look a bit more complete. Fuel system, 40-litre tank off of eBay. It is foam filled. I've modified it as well so it can take a sander. It's got feed and return. There's 2 breather ports in the top that I'll do something with. So basically the feed is drawn out from this facet lift pump that then fills up this swirl pot. And then the main pump will draw it from the swirl pot through this filter, and then it goes away up to the fuel rail in the engine bay. From the engine bay, it then returns back into the swirl pot. If the swirl pot gets too full, it basically returns it back into the tank. Obviously battery wiring running through the middle there. Comes up down the back here. 225 amp mega fuse. This is 35mm gauge wiring. And I've got the Odyssey PC680 that I run in this car. Slots quite nicely into this bit here in the shell, and then it just earths to the chassis. So it's always going to read low oil pressure, low fuel pressure, all that stuff. Obviously the car's not running, so it's not built up any pressure yet. Quite normal on the Emerald on an AGU for the car to idle really low. Sometimes it can go down as far as 500. It will still run, and what Emerald suggests is you make up an idle screw on the throttle body, which I'll show you just now. What I'm going to do as a temporary thing is just jam this little bit of wire just so it holds the revs a little bit higher. Just have to try to ignore this rattle. I need to take these things out. Yeah, as you can see, alternator is charging, got good fuel pressure, oil pressure is good, oil temperature is slowly coming up. Alright, chucked some water in it and hooked up the sensor. It wasn't actually wired up before. So it's taking a feed off of the 180T's coolant sensor. This actually gives 2 signals. So I've got one going to the dash here and then one going to the Emerald itself. Here's the exhaust. It's 80mm off the turbo and it goes to 3". Comes down here, the flexi, V-band in, and then it runs right under the prop shaft into a back box. It's mounted up on BMW E36 gearbox mounts. There's one there. And then I've put one there as well. There is another V-band up at the top, and that's so the downpipe can be separated, so it's easier to remove without having to move the gearbox out the way. I fabricated this up myself. Just up on the lift here, just bought lots of individual pieces. And then I had a mate of mine finish up the welding with a TIG. He's done a really good job of it. There's no clutch in it just yet. Still waiting for RWD Motorsport to make up my clutch kit. But I've sent away an RWD flywheel for them to make it for. And this is just a standard single mass flywheel for a longitudinal 180, just so I can run it for now. But the RWD flywheel teeth are in the exact same place. So the starter still spins it over fine. I'm measuring oil pressure just off of here. Got a little adapter, and then this goes to the stack sensor. And it's quite hard to see, but I'm measuring oil temperature up here. That's kind of where the car is at the moment. I've ordered everything I think I need to get the brakes all plumbed up. I've also ordered the stuff to make up the lines to the clutch slave cylinder. And as I say, I'm just waiting on my clutch kit being made up from CG Motorsport. Once that's here, I should actually be able to hop in it and hopefully drive it up and down the driveway. So yeah, still loads and loads to do. But we're getting there. We're getting there slowly. So yeah, that's it for this one. I'm going to try start uploading a bit more frequent again. Kind of dropped off a bit. But yeah, stay tuned for more. Subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you in the next one. Cheers.